Time to wrap up the biggest headline of the week, the deadly shootings in Charleston, South Carolina. President Obama is renewing his call for gun control in the wake of the shootings. Democratic presidential hopeful Hillary Clinton says she will press for new gun laws that would take guns out of the hands of criminals and the violently unstable while still, quote, respecting gun owners' rights. Meanwhile, Rick Perry criticized the president for what he called a knee-jerk reaction, saying it's too early to identify ways to attack the problem. Now, gun control in the wake of the Charleston church shootings is our topic this half hour, and we want to hear from you, so please post your comments on Facebook and Twitter. Joining us live in the newsroom is our Fox 26 legal analyst, Chris Tritico, Fox 26 news analyst, Mustafa Tamiz, and public policy analyst, Jackie Bally. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, so what do you guys have to say on this topic of gun control? You know,
first, just how sad we are that South Carolina has to go through this horrible tragedy that they're dealing with, and the families of the victims that are going to be dealing with this today, the first Sunday since this happened. It's a very sad, sad day for them. Every time we have an event like this, it shortly, for a very short period of time, reinvigorates a discussion about gun control that ends a few days after we start. I think largely because the Second Amendment lobby is as strong as it is, there really isn't going to be any sustained discussion about gun control for a very long time. There are those who say in the wake of a tragedy like this, it's not the time to have a discussion about gun control. But if this doesn't start the discussion, I don't know when it ever will. I don't know who's up. Mustafa Tamiz, if you're not going to have it now, when are you going to have it?
Well, I think the president hit it right on the head that this is something that Americans have to decide. Gun owners have to decide, and non-gun owners have to be part of that conversation. Because this is, you know, every couple of months we see this. This is not something that happens once in a while. It's very consistent. We see these angry young men who have access to a weapon, who have some mental health issues, that take out a gun and shoot people randomly. And we have to, at some point, come to a conclusion in our society that more guns doesn't make us safer. You know, if not anything, the numbers that we don't see is all the gun accidents that are happening now. So you see this, but you don't see all of the accidental deaths because of guns.
In his speech about this, the president used part of the speech to restart a discussion about gun control. Was he wrong?
I think we need to have a discussion about gun control and gun laws. And I want to commend the community because they did it right. They rallied together, they're uplifting each other, and our hearts pour out to them. We have 118 million license holders who legally have access to their guns. And this is the first, we are 49%, I'm sorry, we are at an all-time low as far as gun-related crimes in the country. So to take away guns from people like me who got access to our guns legally because of someone who's delusional, crazy, racist, whatever you want to call it, he's probably all of the above, is wrong. Because there's no law that he does not have a criminal background. He has not shown up until this point mental issues. He had discussions with friends, but that's about it. So to take away guns from legal, law-abiding citizens because of a crazy person is wrong. Now, do we need to have this discussion? Yes, we do. But gun-related crimes are at an all-time low. So we should not be punished because of a crazy man.
Charles Cotton, Mustafa, a board member on the National Rifle Association board from Texas, said that the problem in South Carolina was the fault of the pastor at the church because he voted against concealed carry in South Carolina, and 8 of his church members would have been alive if he'd have allowed people to carry guns at his church.
It's sad. It really is sad. I mean, there are families that are grieving right now, and for someone to make a remark like that, they're not just tone deaf, right? They don't have a heart.
It's funny that you bring that up because I saw a roundtable with black pastors from South Carolina stating they agreed with that they want to now start carrying, and one pastor even said...
looking at it backwards, yeah, but you agree with Mr. Cotton coming out with that in the wake of this?
I think that's insensitive. But what I'm saying is there was a panel with pastors saying that they definitely agree with the fact that they should be able to carry guns into their churches. They feel that their parishioners should be able to carry guns into the churches. And actually, since this has happened, they disagree with the president. They feel that gun laws are in place for a reason because legal, law-abiding citizens who carry it need to protect themselves.
I mean, does this have a backlash from what the president wants? Are states now going to look at loosening restrictions? I mean, they're never going to say to a pastor, you have to let them carry it, but pastors are now going to be looking at whether or not this should happen?
I think the discussion we should have is really more around common sense. We all agree that the Second Amendment has an important part in our history, and that we all should have the right to have a weapon. But what kinds of weapon? Who should have them? Should there be a background check? There's details to this that never get talked about. And there are important details that we need to have a national conversation around. And what's happened over the course of time is that every time we talk about this issue, the gun manufacturers, create a paid movement that leans on the elected officials in the Republican primaries, that leans against Democrats, that leans against anyone who's created a public voice for this discussion. And at some point, we can't let corporate interests, risk the life of our kids.
Well, these pastors that were at the panel who were stating this, they all clearly said they are not Republicans. They made that clear, but they did feel that they deserve the right to carry their guns. But what I really like about the parishioners and the members of this church, they're saying something that a lot of us are not discussing. They're saying that we need to have faith in our hearts and in our lives. They're even talking about forgiveness of this young man. And I think if we,
unlike his uncle,
I think if we were to talk to our children and continue to make sure that they have positive upbringings and make sure that morality is brought into the household, situations like this would not be as common as you're seeing.
I expect, Mustafa, that part of the defense here is going to has to be insanity.
Yeah.
And
Well,
you're going to see a big
definitely.
debate starting this again, real quick.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that as we talk about this, we can't leave the conversation of race relations. I think in this country, we keep feeling like it's over, but it's not over. We really need to have a deeper conversation.
And I want to say
that.
Happy Father's Day to my two
thank you.
colleagues
Thank
and all
you.
the great fathers out there.
Thank you very much. We're going to leave it right there. We'll be back next week with the hottest stories of the week, but I want to say this, Dominique, that the NRA immediately disavowed Mr. Cotton's statement and said this is not a statement of the NRA, it's an individual board member statement. And so I didn't want to leave the impression that the NRA had adopted that.